Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time it is that you are seeing this podcast, this video vodcast. And we are excited and elated about today's podcast. You have tuned in to the Who Cares About Justice podcast. My name is Mark McGuire. I am your host and the CEO of the Cares Justice Institute Incorporated. What is the objective of Who Cares About Justice? Our objective is to create conversations that evolve around empowerment, around the experience of inequality, injustice, and inequity for Blacks and people of color in America. Our job is to inform, impact, and to inspire. I once heard that conversation is the impetus to relationships, and relationships should cultivate action and power. And so we're talking about the plight of African Americans, Blacks, people of color, minorities in America. And we understand that it's not just about Black men or Black women, but we also understand that it's about different people in general. It was once said by Abigail Adams that she believed, do not forget the women, for within our hearts also burn a passion for justice. So we understand how important justice is around the world and around different genres and niches. And so our job is to bring historical data. During these episodes, we're going to look at events. We're going to look at real-time occurrences. We're going to talk about marketplace impact. We're even going to have personal stories and interviews that will inspire you to do something. That's right. If we're going to be anti anything, we have to be willing to do something. So the Cares Justice Institute, what is our job? Our vision is to eradicate inequities and inequalities and racism anywhere in America, to address these injustices and give an opportunity for individuals to live out their God-breathed purpose. Yes, we believe that humanity is a right. We believe in the Imago Dei. That is the God-breathed purpose for every individual. We believe that racism, prejudice, and discrimination are anything that is antagonistic of one race group over another, with a feeling of superiority and having the ability and the intention and desire to exclude, oppress, or to be injurious. And so what do we say about things like slavery? What do we say about things like inequity? What do we say about injustices? We say that they are not right, and we can no longer sit by and allow them to take place without addressing them, without looking for policy change, without looking for platforms for improvement. We're not trying to be radical. We're just trying to be right. I heard it once said that I'll work with anyone who is willing to do what's right. And so we believe that in the spirit of MLK, in the spirit of civil rights, in the spirit of social justice, in the spirit of racial equity, that we believe every born individual ought to have a right to live out their God-breathed purpose. And so that's what we're about on the Who Cares About Justice podcast. We're always excited about our guests. Our guests are prolific individuals within their own communities. They have different genres of work that they are a part of, different partnerships. They come from different backgrounds. And as you've seen over the last 3 seasons, this being episode 1 of season 4, that they all come from diverse ethnicities as well. People who have been prompted some type of way to move against any level of injustice. And so we're excited today, as we always are. We have a special guest today, phenomenal individual, a big brother of mine in the work of community service. And so we're excited. Most of you know that the Who Cares About Justice podcast and the Cares Justice Institute has 2 addresses, one in Jacksonville, Florida, and one in Ohio. So this is an Ohio homeboy. So this is, I'm excited. We're celebrating OHIO. We're celebrating right now with a national championship, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I want to bring to the stage and introduce to you a gentleman who says that through many diverse and a variety of different occupations and capacities, he grew a wealth of knowledge. He started with the Columbus Recreation Parks as a community outreach specialist. His other positions include a special assistant and community relations to Columbus Mayor Michael B. Coleman, Restoration Academy community outreach coordinator for COWIC, drug and alcohol counselor at Mary Haven, job development employment specialist at CMA CAO, and client services coordinator for ex-offenders while at Community Connection. He just has a wealth of knowledge. He is the CEO of his nonprofit, Winbush Enterprises Incorporated, a nonprofit that aims to assist adult male and female restored citizens in identifying the common barriers they face upon release and reentry into society. Mr. Winbush, once incarcerated himself, knows the struggle of reentry into the fast-paced society for someone with a criminal past. However, he was granted a full pardon by Governor Ted Strickland on January 7th, 2011. And we're definitely going to talk about that. What a great accomplishment. And so without further ado, we just like to bring to our platform Mr. Greg Winbush. Hello, sir. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bishop. Great to be here.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
OH.
Come on. IO.
OH.
IO. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let me just talk about the Crimson and Gray, man. How does that feel for a fan, for an Ohioan, and for someone right there in Columbus to get that national championship?
Oh, it feels fantastic. The city been on fire. You know, everybody's been on board. It's just been a parade yesterday at the Horseshoe. The governor, the mayor, you know, everybody come out. It was 20 degrees. People was out there. The stadium was full. It's just great to be Ohio. Great to be Ohio.
You know, one of the things that is always interesting with college football is, man, the coaches on the hot seat. And after that loss in Michigan, what was the vibe in Columbus from the Michigan game until, let me first of all say, the playoffs? What was the vibe there?
Well, you know, that is the game. And we have lost it 4 times in a row. And the mood and the atmosphere here was doom and gloom. There were some real mean-spirited people toward Coach Day and his family. Through the grace of God, as we know, he has all strength through all things we can do. And through the process, things changed. With national championships, through all that, you know, and it just goes to show you how God can move things when you put it in his hands. That's and through amazing. through that process, the guys on the team bonded together. And through this process, it was something miraculous happened because nobody expected them after the Michigan game to do anything, and they end up winning the national championship.
So let me ask this question. As a former athlete, and we're going to talk about your greatness as an athlete. What does that feel like when mentally, emotionally, when everyone's up and they're cheering for you, and then I heard there were some students that said, there were threats and they were afraid to go to their local restaurants. I think number 33 had mentioned, he used to go to a favorite BW3s and he went in and got these looks and said, man, let me get the heck out of here. What is that like when everybody's with you and then after one loss or after one letdown, everybody seems to be against you? What does an athlete go through emotionally and mentally during those times?
Well, as they say, you're only good as your last game. And the young men who play for Ohio State and those who are in high school and middle school and college, you find out how quickly people turn. And one of the things they found out, that's why they call it a brotherhood, because once again, it's only them. It's them against the world. As you see, the sign that they hold up is us against the world. And truthfully speaking, you had the coach had to have security at his house. The kids was getting bullied at school, his wife. It doesn't feel good. Mentally, you ask yourself, what could we done better? when can we do better? And they did have the opportunity to get a second chance, which we're talking about today. And through the grace of God, national championship.
Yeah, so that's amazing, and I'm very thankful for Coach Day because it was buzz all the way here in Jacksonville. About his job and his family and all those things, and of course the commentators and the media aren't always friendly either. So, but that's it. But we'll come back around to that. Let's get introduced to Mr. Greg Winbush. If you had to introduce yourself to the world through the CARES Justice Institute platform, through this Who Cares About Justice podcast, introduce us to Mr. Greg Winbush.
Well, I would say that Greg Winbush is a longtime resident, Columbus, Ohio, born and raised here, the youngest of four, high school graduate from East High School, varsity basketball, community engagement in the community, doing volunteer work when I was in high school, was a all-star in basketball in high school, honorable mention, all-state, honorable mention, all-American, ended up going to Johns Pitt. In Johnstown, ended up going to Ohio University, playing there. The things I do today, I'm grateful and blessed that God is ahead of my life. I had an opportunity, a great opportunity, that I made a mistake. I spent 2.5 years at Pickaway Correctional and came out and had the support of my family and friends. Mayor Coleman gave me the opportunity to work in his office, but also too, he helped me with a partner. And today, Winbush Enterprise is the birth of what I'm doing today. And I just want to say that getting a second chance, I do not take that lightly. And the work I'm doing, I'm passionate about it because I know what it takes to be able to move forward. And thank you for the opportunity to share on this nationwide platform, because I know I'm speaking for the voiceless, because I know there's a lot of times people contact me who have records from 5 to 10 to 15 years and haven't been able to get an opportunity. And you see how the climate has shifted with the present president, Donald Trump, has 14 felonies and he's the president of the United States.
Yes, sir. And that's something to touch on as well. But talk a little bit about the stigma that goes along with being a previously incarcerated or former, a lot of times when I introduce myself, I'll say I'm a former incarcerated professional. But when you talk about being formerly incarcerated, what's the stigma or some of the stigmas that go along with that in society today?
Well, social media has a big part in that. So when people hear about people who have been former felons, former ex-offenders, restored citizens, what label you want to use, immediately they think of negativity. Okay. And one of the things finding out is that just getting the opportunity to share with people who you are, we all make mistakes, but also to getting a second chance, because when I talk to people about what I do, it's amazing how the conversations change. They talk about themselves, they talk about their son, they talk about their brother, they talk about their cousin, somebody else who had an opportunity to turn their life around or haven't had an opportunity. So with that in mind, you always have a lot of people who look at people when they say ex-offenders and it's like, wow, but you really don't know who you're sitting next to and who you are talking to, because everybody deserves a second chance.
Hey, that's an amazing truth. I remember coming home and one of the first jobs I tried to get before I was going to start the job, and thank God I had a tremendous support system as well. The lady said that she wasn't bonded for theft. And so right away, she assumed by me being formerly incarcerated that it was all about taking from her or taking from individuals things that didn't belong to me. And so not realizing what the true crime was. But we are, again, excited to be here. You mentioned it a little bit, but talk to me about what really inspired the work that you're doing right now.
Well, once again, in 1994, 95, when I was incarcerated at Pickaway, I used to walk the track every day. And for the first 6 months, Bishop, I thought about what was I going to do when I got out. And due to the fact that I was in there and I was around different people who committed different crimes, and I knew that I could do better. And when I was in there, Winbush Enterprise was basically birthed while I was incarcerated, because I knew that I wanted to help myself, but I wanted to help other people navigate through the system, because it's difficult when you don't have support. It's difficult when you don't have anybody that you can go to. And what better person to start something than myself, who's already been through this process.
So was there any significant, once you got out, was there another significant event, or did you see a lack of something? Let me ask that question. What did you see that there was a lack of that really inspired you to say, okay, Winbush Enterprises, that was birthed to give people another opportunity at life. What was it that you thought Winbush Enterprise could bring to society or to community that you had not seen before, or it needed more of? Let me say it that way.
My own experience and being able to take somebody through the steps, because once again, when I first started this process, there was nothing in place. I had to go through, get the background, go get the fingerprints, get the letters of support. I had to go through this whole process. The Urban League wasn't involved at the time. The Impact wasn't involved, which I worked for, Comako at the time. There was no organization except Alvis House of State and Federal. They were the only organization back then. Now you have Urban League is doing good work. You got Impact is doing good work. But when I first came out, there wasn't a lot of resources. Community Connection, the organization I worked for, that was an organization that was helping people with clothing vouchers, bus passes, helping with employment and housing, which I was a part of.
Okay.
So as time has went on, we have, especially in Ohio, we have more resources in most places. We got people from Dayton, got people from Cleveland, Cincinnati, Akron, who come to Columbus because in their cities, they don't have the resources that we have here in Columbus.
Exactly. And talk to me about the importance when you're making that transition, when a person's going through this transformation process. How important are the wraparound services? Talk to me about that.
Very important, because once again, when most guys and women get out, they have very limited resources. They don't have a job. They don't have a car. They don't have housing. And it's unfortunate that most of the people, not all, most of the people come out and they had to go to a shelter. And from that shelter, you had to find out what kind of resources are available in the city. And then also, too, you have to make contact with them. So when you have somebody who's already been through this, it gives you a leg up. It gives you an opportunity for somebody you can talk to that can guide you through this process, because it is a process.
I wanted to put up your, I wanted to make sure there we go, Winbush Enterprise. Uh-oh, I misspelled that. I want to make sure that we get your email, your website on there. It's important because people need to know how to contact you.
Sure.
That's really important because, and again, it's Winbush Enterprise,
right?
Not the S, not Enterprises, and we will correct that. But we're just excited about who you are. I know there's been a couple of individuals, don't know if they followed through or not, but I get a call all the time because I work so closely with Judge Walter H. Rice in Dayton, Ohio, who is a federal judge, and so he's a part of the CARES Justice Institute. He's the president of our board. And so people, when they find out that you've got a resource or a connection, man, they want to get with you right away. But a lot of times we have a problem with follow through. So some people will watch this podcast today. There'll be case managers. There'll be individuals that work in community. There'll be individuals that have family members that need assistance. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of follow through and follow up with the individuals who need the services. Spend a couple of minutes really talking and inspiring individuals as it relates to follow up and follow through, and not getting so frustrated at the first opportunity of an obstacle.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that question, because I understand firsthand that once you tell a person or a company that you have a felony, they're immediately turned off. And I tell people to introduce themselves to the individual and let them know that you're looking for employment and what your skill set is. It's very disheartening that people fill out application after application and they do not hear anything back from them. I was in a meeting once before when I first came out, and people were talking about the individuals in the meeting of who they serve. And I raised my hand just before the meeting was over with. And they said, well, Greg, you have something to say? And I said, 268-699. And they said, what is that? I said, it's not my social security number, it's my inmate number. And they could not believe that I'm sitting in a room with individuals who are serving the population that we're talking about. And I explained to them that it was real disheartening to hear people talk negative about the people who you're supposed to be serving. And I understand that sometimes people get turned off because when they go to different organizations, people don't receive them because they say that they have a felony. And doing the follow-up, it's hard for people to come back to somebody who hasn't treated them initially. Okay, so that's why sometimes I'm not able to help, but it's just the fact that I'm able to listen to them. You know,
And that means the world. That means the world.
It definitely does. It means the world, because a lot of times when you say that I'm a felon, people say, okay, here's a card, go to this other organization. People move past you around and people feel like, wow, where do I go? And I speak for the voiceless. I really do, because I'm able to speak to you. I've been able to be in places where people are not able to go.
That's a blessing. And that's a blessing. So one of the questions I was going to ask you was about equity. And I know that we're in a crossroads in America with our new POTUS and some of the governors who have come alongside. A lot of them don't want to hear the word diversity. They don't want to hear the word equity. And if they do hear equity, they don't want to hear racial equity along with it. But equity is important for us. It's our ability to see over the fence and down the road. It's our ability to recognize that there's a possible future. And without equity, without this value in our lives, most people, can barely see today, let alone tomorrow.
Right.
And so, but when we talk about equity, when we talk about building up the people who were normally marginalized, we talk about those who have been normally oppressed, and we put in that basket not only people of color, but those who have been previously incarcerated. So when you talk about previously incarcerated, we talk about being a returning citizen, and then you talk about being a part of the BIPOC community. Then now we're talking about, what I always call a double whammy. And so you're coming out with not just one strike, but two strikes,
right?
Because there was already a level of inequity, and now you've compounded that by now having this label on you. I heard you give that number out, and a lot of times when I'm in those settings, I remind people that I'll never forget 419-56061. I'll never forget that federal number. I'll never forget that I was a 267 in Ohio. I'll never forget that, because that's how I got my mail. That's how I was called to child. That's how I was called to the front office. That's how I was referred to.
Right.
Either that or my room number, 312, 312, right. Open up. And, so I lost my identity and I just became a stock number. So to regain that's equity in and of itself. And for people to say bishop to me, it brings tears to my eyes almost every time that I hear it. When people say doctor to me, when people just say Mr. to me, sure. and sometimes they just say Mark McGuire. Right. I remember when there was a time I was stripped of that dignity. So sure. When you talk about the helping people to overcome, when you talk about giving people a second chance, just kind of in your own way, and it is a toot your horn. It is a toot your horn, because if we don't market ourselves, who will? What does Winbush Enterprise Incorporated? How does Winbush Enterprise Incorporated, the work that you do, the conversations that you have, the services you provide, the connections that you create, the bridge that you become, how does that build equity back into a person's life?
Well, one of the things, Bishop, about that is that, as you know, your word is your bond.
Yes, sir.
And my name is on this. So I take a lot of pride in what I do and who I talk to, who I connect to, because once again, I want to make sure that when I talk to somebody about what I'm doing, or I'm talking to somebody to refer them, I want to make sure that they understand that this is a person who I had a conversation with. And not only this initial conversation, but maybe 2 or 3 conversations, because as I said, sometimes I'm not able to help everybody, but also too, it may be housing, it may be a car, it may be some clothes. It may not always be a part, it may not be expungement or sealing, but also too, letting people know that when you are trying to move forward, you have to understand that people are watching. I understand that. People want to know, what are you doing? Are you saying what you're doing? And each and every day, it's an honor to sit here, to talk to you, to be able to have a organization where I'm able to help people in a certain way, because I know that other people do certain things, but I know that I'm doing the best I can with what I have. And I'm trying to move forward with this. This is why I'm talking to you, trying to get a larger platform, but also to other resources. But each and every day when I get up, it's a blessing. And each and every day I look forward to seeing who can I pour into, who can I help.
That's awesome. I've had the opportunity to see you a couple of times on the Be a Baller podcast, Build a Life of Legacy. What have been some of the things that on that podcast that you thought was really important to say to community that you want to say even right now? Some of the things that maybe you all rehearsed or went through that always rings in your heart and mind, that's the word that needs to get out.
Well, second chance. People say second chances, but really giving a person a second chance, because when people make a mistake, people push them to the side, just like we talk about Ohio State football. They lost to Michigan and people discarded them, treated them differently. Giving a person an opportunity to do better.
That's
the legacy. The legacy that I'm talking about leaving for my sons, my grandkids, my great grandkids is Winbush Enterprise is not only to help people, it's to help my legacy, my family.
Okay. And what do you want that legacy to be? What do you want your grandchildren to know? And what do they call you? They call you Papa, they call you Granddaddy?
I got quite a few. OG, I got quite a few.
Okay. Yes, sir. So we try to get all of them to call me Grandpa Mark, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But what is it that you want your grandchildren to know about Greg Winbush when they become 25, 30? No, when they're 50, what would they have known? Because if you're no Winbush.
Go ahead, Pastor Bishop.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're freezing up. Go ahead.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Right.
Okay, so and when your children, grandchildren are 50 and 60 years old, what is it that you would want them to say about the life of Greg Winbush?
I would like my sons and my grandkids, my great grandkids, to say that their grandpa, their father, was a great person, human being who helped other people. That's important.
And I see that in your spirit about serving others, and I think that becomes major for us. So I've got a couple more questions, but I want to take this time. I don't want to hold you all day, but I want to take this time to do something that we call I say, you say. All right. And so I'm going to give you a word, and you can either give me one word back or you can give me a phrase. This obviously to all of our listeners and viewers, this is not rehearsed. He has no idea what's coming, like most of my questions, because I just like to flow. I like to hear the heart, and this is that type of podcast. We'll get a little more in depth in a minute, where it may get a little pulling, but right now I want to just lighten it up. I also want to say that I Say, You Say today is sponsored by ISV Consulting. You can find them on www.ilinevision.com and ISV Consulting. And there is the website. It prides itself in strategies that work, advice you can depend on, and experts who've been there. And so if your small business, if your nonprofit needs an uplifting, it needs capacity building, it needs a shot in the arm, reach out to ISV Consulting, and Dr. Angela will get you together, and you will be moving on in another dimension of business and excellence. All right. So here we go with I say, you say. All right. Number one, family.
Generational, legacy, stable, compassion, honor.
Next one is journey.
Guidance, support, love, trust.
Awesome. Number three, basketball.
Bright lights, cheers, memories, brotherhood, family support, community support, teamwork, dedication.
Love it. All right. Number four, pain.
Heartaches, dark days, mistrust, anxiety, hurt.
Next, Winbush.
Leadership, compassion, brotherhood, kindness, fairness, equity, trust, loyalty, character.
Mm. All right. Community.
Legacy, family, trust, elders,
Elders. I heard you use this phrase earlier. Second chance.
trust, honor, loyalty, dependable, on time, going beyond, dependable,
Mm. Resilience.
not giving up, not giving up,
Redemption.
believing, trusting in God,
Mm. Last but not least, purpose.
trying to make the world a better place than you left it, also to helping others.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we appreciate that opportunity to hear those words from your heart. Again, the I Say, You Say portion is sponsored by ISV Consulting, and we want to thank Mr. Greg Winbush for opening up his heart during this segment. All right. So now I want to ask you a question. Who inspired or inspires you? Who is it that kind of gives you that bright light or has in the past?
Mildred Wilson was my mother.
Okay.
Ori Winbush was my father. Those two individuals instilled one thing into me: hard work, loyalty. Your word is your bond.
Mm.
Both of them are not here today, but when I talk to my older brother and I talk to my sisters, and I'm the youngest, and when I talk about this, it chokes me up because my father wasn't able to see me go through this, but my mom did. And every 2 weeks, she came to visit for 2 years. And she was able to see me come out. She was able to see me on the right path.
Great passion. And I totally understand that story. And mine's kind of the flip. My mom passed while I was incarcerated, and she was there every visit that she could while she was battling cancer. She continued to come. And I got that call one day that she had gone on to glory, and I had to finish out my time. And I did get to come home for the homegoing, and then I had to go back. And then my dad picked up the pace right there before dementia struck him in 2008. But we were able to spend about 10 great years together as I began to pastor and move forward. So that's a tremendous feeling to have at least one of your parents or someone that you love that instilled and inspired things in you to help you and to see you in the transformation.
And also too, Bishop, my lovely wife, Dorsey Winbush, she has been the backbone and support, but also too, you're talking about having influence and having power. Former Mayor Michael B. Coleman stood in the trenches for me.
Okay.
Given a second chance.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't be here today if it wouldn't be for him.
That's awesome.
Because awesome. He was able to give me the opportunity that others wasn't able to get, but also too, he's seen in me that what I was trying to do to move forward, and he spoke with the governor about the park. So what I'm doing today, I owe a lot of gratitude to him because he took a chance, knowing that it could have went left, but he had enough confidence in me. And to this day, he still supports me in every endeavor that I'm doing. And I'm super grateful to him for that because I know what it means to have somebody speaking for you. That's why I'm doing Winbush Enterprise, because I'm speaking for the voiceless, that I had the opportunity for him helping me.
Well, that's incredible work. And I want to talk about that. A few years ago, I was approached by a mutual friend of ours, Dr. Ronald Todd.
Sure.
And he mentioned to me about something that was taking place in Columbus with the governor, and it was the expedited pardon program. And so we were able to get on a couple of forums and sit on a couple of panels and talk about the dynamic of an expedited pardon and how that could propel someone's life forward. We were able to give some suggestions about utilizing some local universities. I actually did training with the University of Dayton.
Sure.
Did a diversity training. We talked about working with a different population than they may have been most familiar with. That went really well. We also brought in some trainers to do some training with them, and then brought them into that process because it was my idea that we ought to use some of the local law students around the state that were planning on going into community and expose them to a culture and a genre of individuals that they might need to assist down the road.
Sure.
And so that process was adopted. The University of Dayton, I think with other universities in major cities, were brought on. And then they brought on opportunities for community work and in a smaller capacity to actually go out and market and grab, because with boots on the ground, those community organizations, those CBOs are going to be the ones that actually know those individuals. And you talked about something earlier, trust, that individuals would trust. So talk to us, because one day you gave me a call. I think Ron Todd gave you the number or gave us the number, and you called me. I think you reached out first, and you let me know that you were a part of the process. You had been awarded a contract to get out in those particular counties surrounding Columbus, and you had begun that work. First of all, tell me what it was like to be doing work directly with the governor's office and that process, and then what type of impact does an expedited pardon do for an individual's life, especially you having experience with the pardon from 2011?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing the heavy lifting, first of all, because a lot of times when organizations start a program, they don't have the people who have the experience, not only the book knowledge, but the experience that they've been through. And by you being involved with that, that gave them a different light. And I want to say thank you publicly about that, because once again, it was an honor to be involved in it, because once again, the people who are going through this process, you had to have somebody who has some street cred about going through this process. It was an honor to be able to be involved with, but also too, it was an honor to be able for people to actually see somebody who's been through this, not people on TV, not people in a magazine, but actually they could touch. And I think that I add a lot of value to that. And still to this day, I think that's one of the strengths that I bring to the table, is that I've been on both sides of this.
Absolutely.
And I've been able to be places and being able to go places and meet people that most people haven't been able to meet. So I think that's one of the biggest values that I bring to the table, is that I'm living proof that you can get a second chance.
That's right.
It's not easy. Okay. They're not going to hand it to you. You had to put some work in.
That's right.
And I think that's the process in itself, because 10 years is a long time. That's one of the things we talked about. The 10 years is a long time for people, but also too, in the process of the sealing and expungement, there's other things you can do in the process to keep them engaged, to keep it moving forward. And, so that part of it is that I talked to them about, as I said before, everybody's not able to get a pardon, but it may be a sealing or expungement to be able to coach, be able to get an apartment. Because one of the things here, Bishop, in Ohio, felons can vote. And that's one of the things that I had an honor to work with a director at the Board of Elections here in Columbus to design a flyer to let people know, because a lot of people didn't really know that they could vote.
That's right.
In a lot of states, you can't. In Mississippi and other places, felons cannot vote.
That's right. And I think as that moves state to state, because that's not a federal allowable situation, that's state to state. Right. And as that moves state to state, I remember the first year that I was eligible to vote in Ohio, I didn't know. And so I was just told I cannot vote, I could not get a gun, which I didn't need a gun, but I was just given all of my what I can't do's, you know. And so it's a difficult situation here in Florida. It gets even further than that. When you start talking about coaching and mentoring and things of that nature, man, the Florida Department of Correction or Education and Family Services, they don't play. And you can have the smallest thing on your record to not paying a fine. And man, you got to go through some loops to get an exemption. But understanding that sometimes people who have gone through, formerly incarcerated, understand both sides, are navigating properly, but may not have that thing off of their record. Those are the best people to put in front of youth and gangs and people formerly incarcerated and all of those situations and niches, because, hey, again, not only have you been there, done that, but as the folks tell me right now, you need a receipt. And sometimes you don't just have a receipt of what you've done, you are the receipt. And so when they look at Greg Winbush, they say, wait a minute, this living proof, the proof is in the pudding. Here it is right here. This is real and it's alive and I can touch it and I can feel it. I think about a lot of times our life is just like the life of Christ, when that woman with the issue of blood crawled through that crowd and touched the hem of his garment. And the way that I have been taught that story is she knew that if she could just touch something that was touching God, if she could just touch something that was touching power, if she could just touch something that was touching virtue, that she would be healed. And I think that's the problem with so many of our gubernatorial or governmental agencies that don't understand of the value that we bring in transformation, because sometimes people are in the dirt, man. They're crawling. They've tried everything they can, and they need one last hitch of hope. And if they could just touch something that's touching redemption, touch something that's touching resilience, touch something that has overcome, it will give them the confidence to do the same. And so once again, we applaud you. And I was honored to do some of the heavy lifting. I will admit, we got a little frustrated. We got a little hurt in the process because things moved. And we talk about the disbursement of funds and that inequity that takes place around the world, especially in America with governmental funding. We were looking to be on the other side of it. And so I had to take a stand for what we presented. And but I was so glad. And I told Dr. Todd, I can't take the community grant, but I'm so glad that other agencies did, because that's what we were fighting for. Now we were fighting for the big side,
Right.
because that was going to be the work anyway. You can't help anybody if you don't know anybody.
Right.
You
That's
can't help
absolutely
anybody if you can't be the bridge to someone, and that's where we are. So we're still fighting. We're still talking. We're still looking at policy to say, hey, wait a minute. We appreciate Ohio State. We appreciate Akron University. We appreciate University of Dayton. We appreciate all of these places. At the same time, they're not going to be the ones that's going to attract the people that need this help. They're not going to be the one that not only are trustworthy, but Mr. Winbush, sustain the relationship with these individuals as they navigate. Because once it's expunged, once it's sealed, once something has happened, that's just the great part, but that's just part one.
right.
Now we got to get them back acclimated to resume building and applications and other processes and registrations and all of those things. And they still need a mentor. They still need people to help them in that process. So we just love what you do. You hear me? I try to stay low key, but I get a little passionate.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, we had a conversation. You're part of it, and when you're passionate about something, it comes out. And I understand that, because that's what I tell people. If you're not passionate about something, that's not for you.
That's right. That's right. Okay. And so
I can't have a bigger stake in something than this.
Come on now. Yes, sir.
Okay. If I don't believe in this and I see the results of it.
Right.
I've been on 2 grand juries. I've been on regular jury duty, have a home, have employment. Just got the background check back for the 100 Black men that I'm involved with, so we can do other mentoring. And it came back. Right. And you don't know what that meant when I seen that come back from the BCI. Although it's been already taken care of before, but here it is again.
Yes.
2025. Yeah. It says that Greg Winbush does not have a criminal record.
And that's the receipt. That's the ongoing glory that we appreciate God for, and appreciate the people that you named that played a valuable role in allowing that process to take place, pushing that process and taking a chance. And so when we talk about a second chance, it's so amazing, because in order for someone to have a second chance, and we know we're not non-spiritual, we give all glory to God. We know God does that. But in the natural, God uses people.
Sure.
And so for a person to have a second chance, somebody has to take a chance.
That's what I said.
So and that's how valuable is that?
But very valuable, because once again, my own wife, who was my fiance, I sit down at the table with her and told her my story. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Before somebody else would tell her a story. When I talked to the mayor about what I was doing, I had to tell him my story, although he knew some of it. One of the things about it, being transparent, is difficult.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to people about what I'm doing, there's been articles in the paper, this, that, and other. And I had a judge come up to me and she said, Greg, I've been knowing you a long time. She said, but I never knew that.
Right.
I'm not hiding it. But now I feel like I have a purpose. I have some gifts. I have some talent that I want to share to help other people. That's why I'm thankful for you to allow me to be on this platform, because I just don't want to do it in Columbus, Ohio.
Right. Right. Come on now.
You know, I have a gift. I have a talent that I want to share with others around the country.
Yes, sir. And I think you'll be the right voice, and definitely the right face to do it. Mentorship, how important is it? And I know that word can be thrown around. I've called them mentors, buddies, but how important is mentorship right now for especially individuals, maybe 35 and under, that are getting out of prison, that are coming home to really change their life? I know environment is, if a person doesn't have environmental equity, if they don't have support systems, how important is mentorship going to be to some of these young people?
Believe it or not, we are the OGs. Not having a father, not having a grandfather, not having a brother. A lot of them depend on each other.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking to a lot of these guys, the first thing they said, Mr. Winbush, I really appreciate you talking to me. Not as an ex-offender, as a person.
Right.
Showing them some passion, showing some empathy, just caring about, just listening to them. You know, there's several times I took some guys, we went to lunch, got some coffee, and just talked. And they say, I really appreciate that. You know, I get calls all the time from guys texting me, hey, how you doing? Just wanted to check in with you. Don't want anything. Just wanted to let you know I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Yes, sir.
When I was growing up, mentorship was just older guys trying to keep us on the right path.
Right.
Now it's mentorship, but back then it was just older guys and older women and grandparents was just trying to keep us on the right track. Now it's mentorship.
Right.
But when we was coming up, we didn't have a label. You know, and I think that each one teach one. And I just think that people who have been incarcerated need an opportunity to share with other people what they're going through. Because that's one of the things about mental health is that people who's been through what we've been through, we need somebody to share it with as well. Yeah. And this helps. This not only helps them, it helps me.
It's therapy.
Yeah, because once again, when I see people come in, I remind myself of who I was when I first came out.
That's right.
When I sit across the table, I remember when I was sitting in the chair.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I remember when I went in for an interview. Okay, I know how I felt, not knowing what to expect. And the question being, do you have a felony? There's a box that you check. The fear of putting that down. So I understand the things that people go through. You know, I don't know everything they're going through because each individual deals with things differently, but I've been there.
Right.
I've been there. And I take nothing for granted because I know through the grace of God that I sit here, I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
You serve an awesome God.
Very much so. Very much so. Give all credit.
How much has your faith played a role in this journey?
1,000%. When I used to walk the track every day for 2 years, I used to pray. And then as I was walking, I started picking up other guys. And it's like, we always see you out here. And it became a fellowship. It started with 1, then 2, then probably about 5 guys. We talked every day and we just talked about things. And because of that, knowing that each person had a different situation, but on the track, we had a common bond because not only were we getting some exercise, but also too, we was forming a brotherhood. And basically it wasn't all faith-based, but we talked about it and we talked about things that normally in an environment like that, as you know, you don't talk about certain things.
Right.
And that was a safe place out there on the track that we was able to share. We was able to witness, we was able to testify to each other. And it became very therapeutic. It really did.
Awesome. I'm a part of Prison Fellowship, and one of the things that they do in April is called Second Chance Sunday, and they're asking churches to really get out, open their doors to individuals who may have experienced incarceration, etc., and to do some other great things, and what I've come to believe is that I've got some lawn care taking place right by my window. And so, but one of the things that I believe is that Second Chance has actually become a part of our social justice stream, because I believe that as it relates to social justice, that people need to be given a prime opportunity based on their present condition.
Sure.
And not necessarily allowing the past to predict what their possibilities are for the future. So we begin to use it as a social justice platform for CARES, and so I'm asking you, as it relates to Winbush Enterprise Incorporated, as you're expanding, what is the next step for Winbush Enterprise? What are you believing God in the vision to be the evolving next move for Winbush Enterprise?
Expand nationwide, being able to travel, being able to speak to a larger audience about what I'm doing and how can I help other people in other cities to navigate through the system. That's one of the things I want to do. Also, too, looking for a warehouse to be able to have a facility where electricians, carpenters, plumbers, being able to have some of the guys that I know who's in that space to be able to come in and do some instruction to give guys some skills to be able to go out short term, to be able to go out as independent as well as working for a company, but giving them some other tools, because once again, a lot of these young guys don't think that plumbing and air conditioning is sexy, but if you got a house or your parents got a house when they had somebody that had to come out, you see how much they cost.
Yeah,
So you can give them, if you can give them some tools, and I just think that next, some things I've been thinking about, and this is one of them, a platform, developing a podcast, but also too going out and speaking more, but also too bringing people like yourself together so we can do some collaboration.
Well, I think the collaboration is imminent in any success, especially in the nonprofit world. We have to come together. I believe that there's some think tanks that have to take place so we can share resources, that we don't get territorial, share ideas, do some cross training, cross pollinate, recognizing that this may be my lane. However, I can branch into these other areas. And if it gets bigger than me, I have a referral source or someone that I can put them to. And we can't butt heads. We've got to help each other. It has to be synergy. We've got a program coming or an event coming in April the 4th in Dayton, Ohio. It's called a Symposium for Synergy, a collaboration of change, where we're trying to bring in several organizations around the areas of poverty, especially housing and food security, education, early childhood development, and another niche in the community where we see there's some issues. And we're saying, hey, let's put a community project together over the next few months around these areas. And then in August, September, we have an outcome, and we did it together, and we produced something, and we saw efficacy, we saw efficiency, we saw synergy, we saw collaboration, we saw partnership, because we don't have to try to do all these things by ourselves and live in a silo. So I'm excited to hear that you want to expand with workforce development. I'm excited that you want to, go into some vocational training. The entrepreneurship training is going to be big coming forward, especially with the way we see things shifting now. And we're going to have to really, begin to take care of our own. And when I say our own, those that we have relevance with, those that we have a level of relativity to. And for you and I, that looks like former incarceration. So I'm just excited about that and looking forward to it. All right. So really, we've come.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get you the flyer, the invitation. It's free. It's a 10 to 4 event. It'll be right there at Central State West in Dayton, Ohio. And we definitely want you to be a part of it. We would love, once this takes place, I've got an invite from Shreveport, Louisiana already. We would love to take this platform around and allow other agencies to do the same thing in their local community, because we believe it's going to take that synergy and collaboration to make it happen. So we're going to believe God for that warehouse. We're going to believe God for that expansion, because that workforce development is going to be vital for these young men and women that are coming home and looking not only to get things expunged and pardoned and sealed, but they'll be looking for work. They'll be looking for career paths. And who better in Columbus, Ohio, than Winbush Enterprise Incorporated and Mr. Greg Winbush. All right.
So one of the things I want to say, Bishop, before we go,
yes, sir.
Pray for the firefighters in California who are inmates who are doing a great job.
Absolutely.
It took Kim Kardashian, Chris Brown, and others to bring light to that. Once again, they have a platform.
That's
And
awesome.
there's a lot of attention now being paid to them about pay equity, because what they're getting paid, as you know, through the corrections,
Right.
compared to what the volunteers are making and people who are actually. So I just want to give a shout out to the firefighters in Los Angeles, because they're taking a risk as well.
That's right. Their lives are on the line.
Yeah.
And they're valuable lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
These aren't expendable lives. These are valuable lives.
Right. I mean, because they are, quote, inmates, they still human beings.
That's absolutely. And humanity is a right.
Right. And they were not forced to do this. They volunteered to do this.
That's right.
Yeah. So I just wanted.
And you have those disheartening people that would say they just wanted to get out. I heard commentary. They just wanted to get out and get some air. That's not air. That's fire.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole different story than air. You absolutely right. Yes, but that's why we are doing our part to educate people about people, because they do make a mistake. They still human beings.
That's right. That's right. Last word for Mr. Greg Winbush to the world. If this could go out to the world today, and every nation could hear you say something in the next couple of minutes, speak to the.
What I would like to say, Winbush Enterprise, I would like to say people contact me for my services. Area code 614-369-0596, Winbush Enterprise @yahoo.com. If anybody would like me to come out to speak, send me an email. We can talk about arranging that time and date. Look forward to hearing from people. Thank you for this opportunity, Bishop McGuire.
Well, once again, we are very grateful, very thankful. Sir, have a fantastic day. Go get that breakfast that was being cooked for you before we got started. Enjoy your Monday and continue to do the great work. And I look forward to seeing you at least in April. But continue to talk until that time. So God
thank you,
bless
Bishop. Thank you. All right.
Sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, this has been another episode of Who Cares About Justice. What a fantastic time that we had today to talk to Mr. Greg Winbush of Winbush Enterprise Incorporated. We are so excited about what he's doing in and around the Columbus area. We are grateful for just his continued acumen around the expungement process, around previously incarcerated individuals, about those who are returning citizens. And we're just excited. We're excited for Ohio. We're excited for the nation. We believe Winbush Enterprise Incorporated is going to touch the nation. And Mr. Greg Winbush is a receipt of overcoming. He's a receipt of resiliency. He's a receipt of redemption. And so we're very grateful. We are looking forward to being in Dayton, Ohio on April the 4th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll be right there on Germantown Street in Dayton, Ohio at the Central State University West Campus. And we're excited. Judge Rice, Walter H. Rice, and myself, Mr. David Greer, our vice president of our board of directors. We're excited about this opportunity that we're bringing to Dayton, Ohio. It'll be led by Dr. Angela McGuire, who will give us strategies on the day and kind of set us up for our synergistic project. And so we're excited. It is a civil rights symposium for synergy. It is surrounding the day of the assassination of MLK. That assassination wasn't just a moment. It was the beginning of another movement. And it was us taking on the torch of civil rights, social justice, and even racial equity. We recognize that there has been some conversation around racial equity, and we understand the tension that is around it. But we're just saying that there needs to be equity with all those that are alive and well in America. There needs to be equity around all of those who are looking to strive and leave a legacy for their family. There needs to be equity. There needs to be an opportunity. And so when we talk about the inequity, it's an inequity of opportunity. And so we want to make sure that every born human being has the proper level of opportunity to become all that they can become. Equity becomes important because they need to be able to dream. You cannot dream beyond your exposure. And so that's what's taking place with the CARES Justice Institute. And today with the Who Cares About Justice podcast, we heard someone's story about giving equity to opportunity, wraparound services, things of that of the like. And so that's really important to us, is that we not just help someone get a piece of paper, but we help them navigate life. We help them move forward. We help them to evolve. We help them to become. But it's going to take a community of individuals to believe in second chances, to believe in another chance, to believe in yet another chance. And so we're putting out a plea to you that we believe social justice is important. And one of the ways that we want to see social justice arise is by eradicating racism. But removing racist structures and cultures is not the responsibility of people of color or other minorities growing up in communities that have historically been marginalized. Those who are non-Black must listen to the lived experiences and voices of those individuals willing to share their plight. But it is not the job of the victimized and the oppressed to dismantle the forces that have marginalized them in their communities. Rather, dismantling racism is the responsibility of all non-Black people. It is their own families, on their own jobs, in their own places of worship, and in their communities and marketplaces. In our lifetime, we may not see a full eradication of racism, but it can no longer be tolerated on any level. Racism, anti-Semitism, or any level of bigotry that comes against a people group should not be tolerated. And so it's up to us not only to say something, but to do something. Once again, this has been the Who Cares About Justice podcast with your host, Mark C. McGuire Sr. Listen, God bless you. We love you. Move forward, and peace be still. Take care.